The 2D side-scrollers of yesteryear weren't known for holding your hand, kissing your forehead, and going out for milkshakes, though I secretly wish they always were. No, they were known for killing you violently over and over and over again until you eventually jumped out the window. But hey, you turned out okay! Moondiver is in the vein of those older games. It's unforgiving, fun, and kicked my ass. My poor ass. With that in mind, let's get into my review. Moondiver is pretty light in the story department. What little story there is presented through cutscenes at the beginning of each stage. These cutscenes are comprised of floating sentences and moving images. So unexciting. My initial thought was that there wasn't a plot, or barely a plot, or just a really stupid, unimportant plot. But, to make sure, being the champ that I am, I looked it up, and it's not very interesting! Yay! Oh, that's not something to say yay about. Now, given the nature of the game, I can't help but feel that it can get away with having a weak plot. You know, like fighting games. BlazBlue fanboys in 3, 2. Oh, the game is amazing! What the fuck are you talking about? For the record, I like BlazBlue. In any case, as I stated, the game has a weak plot, though it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up thingy type game. Plot generally isn't the strong point of this genre. That is until someone mentions some game I've never heard of. So go on. I know you want to. Point is, story is bleh. The gameplay of Moondiver is very reminiscent of the Strider series, which makes perfect sense based off of the information everyone else has already explained to you. You choose one of 4 characters, each with some distinct characteristics, and go through various multi-level stages that, as you get into the later ones, will kick your ass. Now, in the first few stages, the game seems like a fairly easy, fun, standard beat-em-up. You can move around at your whim, attack, use magic, jump, and dash. The game has its fair share of platforming with you climbing up walls, hanging on ledges, and doing other Spider-Man-like things. The game also contains some light RPG elements, meaning that as you kill enemies, you gain XP and level up. After doing so, you can increase one of your character's stats to make them stronger. Now, the stages, at least in single player, allow for a lot of freedom, letting you roam around and look for hidden magic spells that your character can make use of, as well as finding different paths, killing more enemies for a bit of level grinding, and all that good stuff. And you know what? It's pretty fun. Yes, combat is pretty simplistic and repetitive, seeing as how you're basically just button mashing, but you still have to stay on your toes, lest be hit by that flying shit the enemy tossed at you. Plus, there's always something really satisfying about one-shotting everything. At least for a little bit. But then you discover something. This game is hard, in more ways than one. Oh, wait. Fuck, I want to retract that statement. That sounds kind of bad. Now, I'm not unfamiliar with difficult side-scrolling games. I grew up with Contra, and sucked ass at it, but I still grew up with it, and in a way grew to appreciate that sense of difficulty that those games provided, as well as the accomplishment one felt after kicking a particularly difficult stage's ass, but at times, Moondiver seemed a bit too unforgiving. Now, as I said earlier, the stages in Moondiver are multi-leveled, so when you get to the end of one screen, you then enter another, which is nice in a sense because longer stages mean more bang for your buck, I suppose. The problem I had with this is, at any time during a stage, if you die, you're taken back to the stage select screen to start all over again, which annoyed me. More than one occasion I'd get through an entire stage only to get to the boss and be killed due to not knowing his particular strategy, and then I'd have to start all over again, which I couldn't help but be irritated by. It doesn't help that it seems like your character dies incredibly fast, unless you're playing on easy mode, and thank God for easy mode, but even then you can still die quickly enough. Now, I'm all for a challenge, but I wouldn't mind a checkpoint here or there just to even things out a bit, or maybe even let the player have multiple lives per stage so they can die and pop back in. Hell, just put in a game mode called I'm going to puss out, okay? Patch that into the game. Do it. Of course, if soloing isn't your thing, you can try out the game's multiplayer mode. You can play online with friends, or random assholes, or locally with friends, or random assholes, if you really want to, I guess. The game does become considerably easier in multiplayer as you can revive one another. Not to mention, 4 people one-shotting everything is vastly superior to just one. The only fault with the multiplayer mode from what I experienced is that I don't have any friends who have this game, so I had to play with random assholes, and that never goes well. All in all, the gameplay of Moondiver is good. Yes, it gets a tad repetitive, and it's pretty difficult at times, especially if you haven't played a game like this in years. And there's not a ton of stages in the game, though there is replayability for level grinding. Basically, despite its faults, the game is fun to play, though nowhere near perfect. Moondiver doesn't look particularly great, though I didn't really expect it to. It's a downloadable title. With that said, I thought both the characters and enemies looked pretty good. They also had some cool designs, main characters especially. Backgrounds looked very bland and just sort of meshed together after a while. On the upside, the game manages to keep a solid frame, most of the time, so that's something. One part of the graphics I didn't really like were the cutscenes. They're just really bland and boring, and they look like crap. There, I was blunt. Go me. Personally, as far as the game's looks are concerned, I think the game would look considerably better had they just gone with an all 2D game. No 3D graphics, just a 2D beat 'em up thingy with pretty HD graphics. That's just me though. All in all, the graphics were okay. In the sound department, the game features no voice acting outside of character yells, which is okay, I guess. With the lack of a story, the game can kind of get away with having no real voice acting. As far as music is concerned, I actually liked it quite a bit. It's fast-paced, which sets the tone since you'll be zooming through the stages killing shit. Though I noticed that some tracks sound very similar to one another, which isn't a huge deal, I'm just saying. All things considered, the presentation was decent. All in all, Moondiver is a good game. Well, it definitely could have been better in certain areas. For what it does, it's good, and for the target audience for this game, well, they're probably going to fucking love it. If you're a fan of this genre and don't mind some difficulty, and if you're a fan of this genre, you probably love that difficulty, by all means, download this title. For everyone else, I check out the demo first to see if this is your cup of tea, because I don't really think that Moondiver is a game for everyone. Moondiver gets a 3.5 out of 5.